as someone who appreciates the realistic styles of the Legend of Zelda games, I was very reluctant to play the cartoonish design of the Wind Waker. But I was addicted to Zelda, so I had to at least give it a try. And boy was I ever glad I did. Toon Link grew on me, and continues to do so every single time I replay the Wind Waker. There's just something about his alluring charm that keeps me coming back for more. It has a certain charisma about it that doesn't need realistic graphics to capture the imagination of millions. The Wind Waker stands as its own, and one of the contributing factors to this is its great list of dungeons. It may be a short list, but it's a damn good list. There isn't much to the first stage of Ganon Staff. Just refight all the bosses from the previous temples. Ooh, how original. Anything new perhaps? Oh, this time you do it in black and white. Great.
Okay, you kinda went the other way on that one, didn't you?
Especially in such a colorful game like the Wind Waker. It should be a cardinal sin to have anything in black and white. The second phase of this dungeon, however, is where the rubber hits the road. Gotta love the lantern puzzle to open up a portal to the surface. And one of the coolest things ever was the Phantom Ganon fights, where each time you defeat him, his sword points to the correct door to go through. And once you finally beat him, you get to use the sword to smash through the last door. There's nothing quite like using an enemy's weapon against them. Hell, you even get the light arrows here. And that long staircase hallway right before you fight Ganon is an epic setup to the conclusion of the game. You could have cut out the first part of Ganon's Tower, and it probably would have jumped up this list quite a lot. I don't like this place. Every time I play the Forbidden Woods, I get lost, get dead, and have to backtrack far too many times for the chests that I struggle to find and get to, resulting in a dungeon that drags on for way too long, and an epic fire-spitting session to go along with it. With that out of the way, we can look at some of the positives to this dungeon, because believe it or not, there are some things about the Forbidden Woods that make me try and retry to play it with an open mind. For starters, it has a very mysterious Zen type of atmosphere to it. Like if you were to do some ancient meditation yoga in the beautiful wooded grove at sunset. But it was the beautiful wooded grove next door to the serial killer's house on Halloween night. And the sun is going down. So give it a check mark for the curious adventure section. It also has beautiful enemies in the form of the Mothula. And the neon blue vines on the locked doors really pop. I do like the various ways in which you must unlock each of these said doors. So give it another check mark for the beautiful section. And of course you can't argue with getting the most overpowered boomerang in the entire series here as a weapon, while also being able to take to the skies and glide around on your new Deku Leaf. Another check mark for the artifacts section. So see, there's a lot of good to this place. Maybe one day the fire spitting will end. The Forsaken Fortress is not a glamorous place, nor does it have a lot going for it. It's a pain in the ass to go through, especially if you keep getting captured and have to do it over and over again. And did I mention that you have to do it unarmed? Not only that, but you have to return to this miserable location again for a second part later in the game. However, this is where it kicks up a few notches. Upon visiting the Forsaken Fortress for a second time, you are almost immediately given the Skull Hammer as the dungeon item. And this thing doesn't mess around. You thought you were unstoppable with your new Master Sword? Any enemy making contact with the receiving end of the Skull Hammer is either sent to the moon, or is in desperate need of being scraped off the pavement with a spatula. All that pent-up frustration from being bullied in the first part of the fortress is unleashed in the form of hefty doses of vitamin payback. And story-wise, this couldn't be more fitting. You're here to take back your sister from Ganon and the Helmrock King, and the hefty revenge you get is definitely worth going through the first part of this dungeon. Speaking of getting on your nerves, the Wind Temple has its fair share of agonizing moments. Whether it's the fact that this dungeon tests your stamina and drags on, or make you're not quite getting the flight distance required. Or those goddamn pea-hats that won't fucking leave you alone! It's safe to say that I've had my fair share of rage-inducing moments while playing this temple. But those are minor details compared to how awesome this dungeon actually is. From the giant fans that allow you to ride the gusts around, to the sheer verticality of the center route, the Wind Temple oozes with satisfaction. All of the wind-based puzzles are entertaining, even the slower ones that require you to push blocks with iron boots on. And as annoying as the theme may get, it's oddly comforting. In fact, so is the rest of this dungeon. It kinda has a relaxing feel to it, which is nice considering the different ways the Wind Temple could test your patience. Also, being one of the last temples in the game allows for a vast variety of enemies to face. And even though the Wizrobes could overwhelm you, nothing was more satisfying than multiing everything it threw at you. I always felt like such a boss when fighting the enemies in the Wind Temple, because I had an abundance of weapons and items to use at my disposal, and my health bar could take a few hits from those cheap-shotting enemies that I would just turn on and slay. And as much as Maker was a pain in the ass to protect, he and Link make an awesome team by planting trees that Link can claw shot onto. And it would have been too hard to leave him behind, even if you could. I mean, just look at this guy. Usually in Zelda games, the first dungeons seem to take a bit of a hit on lists like this. Mainly because of its lack of items, lack of experience with the controls, and not having a lot of room for error, because the minimal amount of heart containers that you have tend to deplete quickly while you're still learning the game. Go figure. The first dungeons are usually basic and simple. But Dragon Roost Island tears this cliché to shreds. You still have to watch your P's and Q's though when it comes to taking damage, but the amount of substance in this dungeon is unreal. This dungeon doesn't technically start until you get inside the cavern, but to be
110%
honest, it actually feels like it starts once you sail up to the Dragon Roost Island itself. The story of the Rito and their problem with the angry dragon Balu blends in extremely nicely with the progression of the dungeon. The expedition up the cavern to the top of the volcano includes many areas that are both inside the fiery mountain and outside on the cliff edges. This contrast provides both an amazing view and hints of danger. And with the color scheme of the Wind Waker, the lava really pops. One of the main things that tend to bring down the first dungeon in Zelda games, like I mentioned earlier, is the lack of items to use. Dragon Roost is no exception. However, it makes use of its surroundings to solve issues along the way, like cutting ropes on bridges, cooling lava to make stepping stones, stealing an enemy's weapon to break barriers, and my personal favorite, lighting things on fire with various sticks that you find laying around. These things may not be any of Link's personal items, but with clever little tactics like this, it makes it seem like they are. At least until you reach the real dungeon item at the top of the mountain, which is quite possibly one of the best and most fun items to use in the entire series. In short, Dragon Roost Cavern is an amazing dungeon, and is quite simply an excellent way to start off the Wind Waker. Haha! What a place! If there was a temple that could ever be called epic, the Tower of Gods would be the one. From the moment this giant monolith rises out of the ocean until you ring the bell at the top, this entire place just embodies the word epic perfectly. It's the place that you've been working for the first half of the game. Sailing around the Great Sea collecting the 3 sacred pearls and being the professional problem solver that only Link can be. And now it's time to experience the Trial of the Gods. Not only do you receive the Hero's Bow in this dungeon, but you also learn a new melody for your Wind Waker that allows you to control other objects and beings. If that wasn't epic enough, the music theme from this place just amplifies the sacredness of this temple. The sound of the gods humming, the neon-colored lasers, and even the light bridges you walk over just radiate pure awesomeness. Some people say that this dungeon is too dark for such a colorful game, that its walls are too grey and bland. Some say that its music is too quiet and non-existent. And some say that Medley is an irritating companion and she's not useful at all. But these people say
A lot of things, none of them matter.
so let the ancient messiah of legend himself tell you how the Earth Temple really is. This place is the Shadow Temple of the Wind Waker, focusing on light-based puzzles and combat techniques in order to vanquish the spooky foes like the Redeads, Floor Masters, Poes, Stalfos, Blue Bubbles. They're all here. Hell, there's even a dark Choo-Choo that can only be damaged after being hardened by light. And Medley is not only fun to use in this dungeon, she is helpful beyond belief, using her harp to play the Earth God's lyric to get through the sealed doorways and also reflect light onto objects and enemies in order to progress further. Medley's harp can be used in combination with Link's mirror shield that he acquires in this temple to do some intricate reflecting. And the music? Oh, the music! There is music, by the way, and it's creepy as hell, with a bit of a Mission Impossible infiltration vibe to it. Which is all too fitting, because you must sneak deeper and deeper into the Dark Temple in order to purify the Master's sword. And bonus points for the big mirror room, where you reflect light like in the movie The Mummy. At the end of the day, the Earth Temple is dark. But that's the idea. It's kind of hard to be creepy using plenty of color and charm. And it's a nice shock from the beautiful rest of the game. Embrace it. This has been Mabus, and just because The Legend of Zelda changed its art styles for the Wind Waker doesn't mean the quality of its dungeons suffered. Trust in Toon Link. He knows how to wreck shit up, especially when it comes to fighting bosses. But that's a video for next time. So in the meantime and in between time, stay tuned for more.